I took a stroll downtown this evening when I heard music echo through the night. So I started running so I wouldn't be too late. In the neon light, what the music could reveal through the night.
Welcome everyone to Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Rearden and I'll be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be having an intuitive development coach on today in session. So we might think, well, what is an intuitive development coach? Well, we're going to be talking about that in just a little bit. But before we do that, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and to share this audio and our video to help build a community of like-minded individuals who want to get into a better state of mind and a better life. Now, when we try to be mindful, to be aware of what we do, we need to understand one thing. What have we been doing? Because if we can understand what we have been doing, then we can really dive deep into what we should be doing. Because sometimes we have the answers, but sometimes we choose to avoid those answers. That intuition, that way of thinking, we know what's best, but we don't do it. Many of us know that going to the gym or eating a healthy diet is actually a better thing than going to McDonald's. But why do we go to McDonald's? It's easy. It tastes good. Now, if your taste buds like McDonald's, that is, for me, I don't like McDonald's. Now, it's not because it's bad food or it's because it's going to make me fat or anything. It's because I just don't have a taste for it. Maybe my quality is a little bit more refined nowadays. I typically don't go to fast food places like that unless it's going to be one of those spots that's just pushing out great quality food on a level that's not commercial, right? Because if you think about McDonald's, it's on every corner. And when that happens, the quality of the food can be different at one place and another. You know, we can talk about fast food all day. Well, the reason why I'm talking about the differences between a chain restaurant is because many of us are linked together by those same types of chains. And it's not so much that we have franchises and we can be in New York and California and Texas and Florida. There's so many different places that we can be. In our mind, the same thing happens. We can be in so many different places, and the quality of our mind can be different in any of those places. So how we are in New York might be totally different than how we are in California. But why? Why can't we just have the same type of mindset where we are? Our environment does have a huge impact to who we are, to how we operate. And sometimes we have the answers, but we just can't see them. There's just so much going on in our life, and we need to get a good understanding of how we can break things down, separate things into rightful categories, and then go from there. For the people who are having a difficult time doing that, then this episode is going to be essential for you to watch, because today I'm bringing on Isabeau Maxwell, who is, again, an intuitive development coach, who's going to help you see on that unconscious level of who you are and who you want to be. There's more to the I than we are led to believe. And sometimes we cover up our sorrow, our pain, our hurt, whatever you want to call it, our life, our circumstance. We cover it up so good with being busy, with avoidance, with ignorance. But that's not the answer. There is a way out of it. And I want to share Isabeau's way of thinking to help you start that process, to build that foundation of seeing your mind in a different light, in a new light, and hopefully the light that's finally going to bring you to the place that you want to be. Welcome, Isabeau Maxwell, to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So today I have you on. You're an intuitive development coach. Can you please elaborate on what that is and how you help the world?
Absolutely. Well, first, I entered into the world of becoming a professional medium. Then I found that my passion was helping other people open up their intuition, not necessarily to do psychic readings or anything like that, but to use it in their day-to-day life as guidance. So I teach a course on it, and I have a membership platform as well for people that are really looking to live intuitively.
And what got you into the whole type of coaching of intuitive development coaching, and then maybe even going a little bit further back into the medium work you did?
Yeah, I got to tell you, not in a million years, Michael, would I have thought that I would be sitting here today. I'm grateful that I am, because my life is 100 times better than what I even understood it to be before. But I was in my early 30s. I was actually a complete skeptic. I've been very business oriented my entire life. I have a math degree from college. Everything was science based for me. Didn't really have spirituality or religion in my life, in the family in general. So it was more just being very human. And like I said, in my early 30s, this all happened. My grandmother passed away. She was halfway across the country. And I ended up, it was the middle of the day. I was alone in my apartment. My husband and kids went to go get me, wine and chocolate to help soothe my heart, because I just lost the most important woman in my life. And within an hour or two, I don't recall the exact timeline, but she showed up in my living room and she was transparent, but solid enough that there was no way that I could doubt that that happened. And honestly, it was really frightening for a moment. It was really startling, because that just happened in the movies. That's not real. And now it just happened to me. So I moved forward, and I believe that I moved forward in the beginning out of grief, thinking, okay, if that was real, are you there? And I started having conversations with her and such. Eventually, I found that the conversations weren't very intricate or detailed. And I remember saying to her, I'm going to need, proof. I'm not trying to be mean or cruel about this, but I'm going to need some level of proof. Otherwise, this might be grief, and I might need to go take care of that and meet with somebody and get some healing work done through therapy or such. And she started to deliver significant amount of proof. And then other people started to come through from the other side. When I was hanging out with friends, walking through stores, things like this, I started to develop my intuition and dive into it the same way I would dive into business or school or anything else. I had to learn it. It was like I wanted to understand, what is this thing? How does it work? Et cetera, et cetera. And I did what I thought I should do, because I didn't know anything else, which was to become a professional medium. And I worked as a medium for a few years. Well, I worked for a number of years, but fast forward, a couple of years past that, I developed the Sage Method course, which is a 7-week course to walk people through how to open up that intuitive channel. And that's what got me here today.
And is your course like the coaching course?
Yeah. The course is the coaching course. It's like the master course. It's wonderful because I would say 98% of the people that take it are not taking the course to become professional intuitives. They're literally taking it to be able to tap into their own intuition in their life. And any business owner, any person pursuing any sort of professional, or really impactful, even art, understands that intuition, when it's flowing, things really line up.
So it's like a type of healing type of coaching.
Yeah, it's a coaching where we walk you through understanding how you're wired, understanding how you can get quiet, how it works for you best to be able to tap into that inner guidance, and then how to apply it to your day-to-day life.
Yeah, that's like an underlying thing of what I do for mindset. So mindset is just kind of like the quality of our thoughts, the way we think. And then we have like a sub level to that, which I think is the work that you do, where it's like, okay, there's something beneath my conscious thoughts. And then even maybe in between our subconscious thoughts that we might not pay really close attention to. So that type of aspect of coaching is important too, because we learn basically our unconscious thoughts. So we have like our conscious thoughts and our subconscious. Then we go to the unconscious, which is like basically what I think you're doing. If we had to just give it a name for most people to realize, like, what type of thought process would that be? And I had an experience like that when I was younger. And so I know sometimes people might think like, oh, like this is crazy. You just don't see invisible people in your home. But I mean, throughout my whole experience working as an educator, as a coach, all the different jobs I had, I probably didn't have a profession or a career where someone didn't tell me a story about this, where they might have lost like a grandmother or mother. And they tell me that they were just in the living room with them, just in the doorway. And it was like they can see them clear as day. And I remember I was young when this happened to me. I was like 8 or something. And I saw like an image, and I'm in my room by myself, and I'm a kid. I'm 8 years old. So I run downstairs to my great grandmother, and I'm like, there's something in the room. Now, was I dreaming? I don't know. But I mean, I woke up so quick and I didn't really get that shake of waking up and saying, oh, it was a dream. It was like I was already awake and I experienced that. So I was like, that's interesting. And then I was like afraid to go back into my room. I did go back into my room, but it was one of those things where I was uncertain of it. And I know, again, many people might not believe it until they experience that, but it is there because our mind is so powerful where, for example, if you're in the Sahara Desert and you're thirsty, a mirage, hey, there's some water over there. And you run over there and you finally get to the water, it's just sand. So our brain does all these crazy things that sometimes might not be conscious. And we do have to understand that because if we don't, then we really lose some of that hardwiring process of the brain. And that is actually key for helping us get to success, getting us to happiness, becoming more effective. There's so many different things to that. So what I wanted to ask you was, it requires a certain type of thinking to be in that state of mind. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. When I stepped into this, I struggled myself with, can this be real? It has to be grief. I had to have made this up. I love that that happened for you at 8. A little bit frightening getting back into that room. For me, it was really bizarre because I was an adult. There was no, there was no adult telling me it was an imaginary thing or anything like this. It was just me head on having to process through it. And I learned very quickly that a few things. Everyone's intuitive. So this concept that one person's more intuitive than another it's really false. It's not that one person's more intuitive than another. It's that everyone's intuition flows differently through them. We all have very strong intuition, but it's cluttered. It's really cluttered. And the whole key to tapping into that inner sense, that inner guidance, that unconscious, subconscious that you talk about is, decluttering it, letting go of the stress. And this is how I explain it to my students. If I kind of feel like you have something probably similar to this as well with the amazing work you do. With my students, I say, if every task, stress, issue, thing left unsaid, broken item in your home, storage piece, if each and every one of those is a hamster on a hamster wheel, all of those hamsters on hamster wheels are in your brain and you're asking your intuition to flow through it. Your brain is cluttered, very cluttered. People that have a very minimalist type lifestyle or minimalist, eating style and such tend to experience more intuitive moments because they have less of that clutter. So a lot of the course is talking about what is that clutter for you, because it's different for everyone. So let's examine, what is it emotionally? What is it physically? What is it environmentally, and then start to remove that clutter. That's when that self-guidance really starts to kick in.
When I was on the journey for mindfulness and happiness, one of the things I had to learn how to do was take out the trash. And it might seem like, well, I'm taking out the trash. What does that mean? Am I taking all my negative thoughts, my negative beliefs, my bad habits? There's so much to those thoughts that are not congruent to success, to happiness. And we do have to really dive deep and understand, is this helping me? Is this important? And as you said, for someone who is a minimalist, they already know what's helping them. That like, I need this versus, oh, well, you never know. I might need this. Now you're a hoarder. I'm guilty of that. Yeah. So like I might have, like a living room. This is the main living room. Then I have a den. Do I really need a den? Probably not. I don't use it, but it's there. So it's kind of like I have it just in case. What happens if I have company? And then you just go to the grocery store. Maybe you get 2 drinks instead of 1 because what happens if I have company? And so you just always stock up for the what if. And that what if kind of weighs heavy on us and it acts like an anchor in our mind. And we have a hard time being mindful when we have so much clutter in our mind, the way of our thinking. And that can actually probably stop some of that intuitiveness because we are so busy with everything else. And for the people who probably don't believe in this, they're probably like, well, my mind is just racing 100%. And when that happens, you need to slow down. You need to slow your thinking down, slow your life back down, because we live in such a fast-paced life where many people, if you think about how they operate in a given week, a month or year, everything is what's next. So on Monday, they want Friday. On Saturday and Sunday, they're enjoying life. It goes by so fast. But then again, on Monday, they're waiting for Friday. So they are really only enjoying maybe 2 or 3 days out of the week. So we lose so much time right there. We're not paying attention. We're not intuitive to our life. So that's one aspect. But then we get down really deep and we get down personal. How about our relationships? Are you appreciative to your relationships? When's the last time you spoke to your parents? If they're still alive? If you have siblings, do you talk to them on a regular basis? Friends from high school, college, whatever it be, if they had impactful meeting in your life, do you keep those bonds? Sometimes we just let things slide because our life just gets filled up again. So that trash aspect is all the things that we have, and we don't take time to divvy things out, to sort things out, and we just allow it to be chaos in our life. And that kind of reflects on our life. It's chaos. So we're struggling. Many people are in a rat race. They live paycheck to paycheck. They're putting on fake smiles because they don't like going into the work that they do on Monday. And so there's so much hate for their career and they're unhappy, but they're not willing to do anything. And I think that if we can learn how to be more intuitive, then that's going to help people to get to that more happiness, to a higher energy level. And I wanted to see, are there any tools that people can use or tips or tricks that people can use to be more intuitive?
Yeah, I love it's a tool called GCP, Ground Clear Protect. And I'll lay it out because it's super simple. Somebody can do it step 1, 2, and 3. But I wanted to throw out there, I love what you were saying. I wanted to throw out there too that everyone, I know some people struggle with the concept of intuition. And while I might have had experiences, and you did as well, where you saw someone, that's not the case for everyone. And to tap into your natural intuition is to tap into that small voice that you tend to think about after the fact. How many times has a person said, I knew it. I knew it. I knew I shouldn't have taken a left, but I took her, I did it anyway. And everything in me told that's your intuition. So really, there's nothing overly magical about this other than saying, wouldn't you like to stop and listen to that voice before you took the left turn? That's what it's all about for me. It's about being in the flow. Instead of having the lows really, really low, have them not be so low. A fun example of that, I remember a number of years back, I was driving an old Saab. Now, I loved this car, Michael. This car was like 1978 or something. I mean, it was old. It was just fun. And I had this solid belief that this car was a tank, that it would never die. And I don't know, it was my baby. And I was driving along and the thought popped up in my head, the car is going to die, like break down. And I stopped and was like, well, intuitive teacher, you probably should follow what you tell other people to do, right? And I said, okay, I'm going to listen to myself, even though that's not really how I feel about the car. This popped in. It was a gut feeling. I look out my window. There was a mechanic. So instead of going straight and continuing on my day, I turned into the mechanic, pulled into the parking lot. And as I pulled into the parking spot, the car broke down and died, like in the spot. And it's still going to happen. These lows are still going to come about, but I didn't need a tow truck, didn't need anybody to help me push out. You know what I mean? I wasn't that late. They were able to get it in right away. Stepping into that flow of everything works for you. And it's acknowledging. So to get to the GCP concept, it's acknowledging our energetic body. We have energy. And we know this because you can walk into a room and you can feel other people's energy. If a fight has just happened in a room, almost every person can relate to walking into that room and going, oof, I can feel that. We naturally have energy, but what we don't do is we don't tend to take care of that or acknowledge that energetic body. So think of the energy body as a cloud that can pick up emotions from other people as you go along. By acknowledging that energy body, we can stop picking up unnecessary stresses and things that are not built for our path. And it's real simple: ground, clear, protect. Imagine yourself grounding into the ground, just like a grounding wire. Second, clear. Imagine water or wind or whatever you love just rushing on through you and getting rid of everything out of your energetic body that does not serve you. And then protect, just encapsulate yourself in like a bubble. Understand that your energy's in that bubble, and that bubble is going to give you that breathing space to be able to filter what's supposed to be on your path and what's not. This is a massive step of clarity and declutter. When people do this, they find that their mind quiets. They find that they start to respond instead of react, that they are able to make decisions with much more clarity because they're not really burdened with the energy of everyone else that they're not supposed to be carrying, really. So doing this just once every morning is saying, I'm an energetic being. I have energy. My energy can be affected. My emotions can be affected. I'm going to acknowledge it, put a nice little bubble around it, and say, I'm off for my day. It makes a huge difference. I tell people, do this one every morning for a week and watch how people around you start to interact with you differently. You start to make choices differently, and you don't have that racing mind as you did before.
I love what you said in there, and we're going to just unpack this. How to step into the flow of everything. And that's just like mindfulness. That's just awareness. It goes so deep. And to say it differently, I think when we get into different types of coaching, we have one mission to help the client, right? To help them heal, to help them get better, to help them understand their energy, their mind. But sometimes the terminology is a little bit different. And it doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just so profound. Whenever I find these little nuggets when I'm speaking with coaches and guests, is that they always have a different way of saying things. And it's so profound because there's no right way, I guess you can say, to teach someone, because there's so many ways you can do it, and how to step in the flow of everything. I don't know if you want to unpack that, because it goes so deep in my mind. It's like I can talk about that for hours. I'm not sure if you have like a different way of thinking and how to step in the flow of everything.
Well, how would you express it? Because I agree with you. This is why I love having conversations with people, because we always end up saying the same thing two different ways. And when we come together to find that unity of it, it goes deeper. So how would you express getting in the flow?
So for me, it would be living in the moment. And so I'm living in the moment. I'm being present. I'm being mindful. And that's a process in itself. Because if you think about it, most of us look at the clock and we're like, is it 1 o'clock yet? Is it lunchtime yet? Is it dinner time yet? Is it time to go home yet? Is it time for my birthday? Like they're always looking at a forward date versus where am I today? And then looking at today's date and saying, today is time, I'm here. And then checking in with themselves. How do I feel? Do I feel 100%? Oh, I'm a little cold. I'm a little hungry. People don't typically go that deep. They just say, well, oh, I'm cold. Let me get a blanket, right? Versus the why to it, right? Why am I cold? Oh, yeah, the AC is on. Well, it's not that cold in the house. So why am I really cold? Oh, maybe I'm anemic or something. You're basically going down a rabbit hole with all of these different things, but there's never nothing going on. Because if I go to the park right now, it could be completely empty, but it doesn't mean that nothing's going on. I can look at the trees, I can listen to the wind, and I can look on the ground and I can see the ants marching in a single file. There's so much that can happen. You just have to pay attention. And I find that when you start to pay attention, your life gets a little bit better, where it's not just a little bit, sometimes it could be a lot, because you start appreciating that moment. And one of the things that many people don't appreciate is life. They take it for granted, but we only have one. But everyone thinks they have the luxury of time. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it next week. I'll do it next month. I'll call when I have some availability, some time. That is maybe the greatest misconception that people have, is time. And then being aware of their moment and learning to appreciate that. And the flow of everything of the world that's happening around you is happening around other people too. So we're taking it to the next level now, because what's happening to you could be happening to someone else, or someone else can be having a different type of scenario at that moment. Because we can have a really hard time in our life where we lost a loved one and we're grieving, we're hurting, and the world just seems so ugly, so cold, and we can't find the way out. We can't find the light. But there could be someone who's even worse, or maybe someone who has just experienced the greatest thing in life. So there's so many different aspects, and we sometimes forget that our life is just like, oh, front and forward, my life, my life, my life. But there's so much going on in the world. We have to understand that. And I think when we can understand that, happiness can come in a little bit easier. Our actions are going to be a little bit more pronounced. There's just so much to mindfulness, living in the moment, being aware. And I think it's the same thing for stepping in the flow of everything.
It really is. And one way that I describe what you just explained so well is personal programming. I talk about that in the course. And I love how you said it because it's so true. We get into the habit of not stopping and checking in with ourselves. It's why GCP works so well, because you've given yourself that morning check-in to say, okay, I'm grounded, cleared out the negative I don't need. I'm, putting the intention for the day. But to go further with that, getting into the flow, for me, I really dive into the personal programming. What were you taught? Does that fit with who you really, really are? And checking in to say, am I okay? Is this what I really want? Sometimes the answer is no, but we do still need to do something with that. Even if the answer is no, this isn't what I want, but right now this is for the highest good of all. But when we start to really check into that personal programming and say, okay, well, I was taught that I don't like coffee or that I don't like tea. I know that's small, but when all of a sudden you have tea for the first time, this is literally an example from myself. I opened up intuitively, spiritually, and started to figure out who I really was instead of who I was told that I was. I was told I don't like tea. I was told I wasn't an artist. I didn't have any creativity in me. I was told a lot of those things. And then all of a sudden I was put into these situations to have your only choice is tea. And I'm like, oh, I don't like tea. I've never had it, Michael. I had never had it, but I just instantly believed I didn't like it. And then I love it. Absolutely love tea. But this goes deeper. It goes into our behavior. It goes into how do you respond when somebody asks you to do something? How do you respond when you're in a large group? How do you respond when there's tension between you and another person? And a lot of that can be personal programming. When we look at that and when we start to say, okay, how do I want to navigate that works for me? Not for how I was taught to navigate, but what works for me. That's just a really deep level of checking in. Like you said, what's going on? I'm cold. And it could even go so deep as to say, I think I'm cold because I'm very emotional right now. I don't think these shivers are the air. I think it's why am I emotional? We don't give ourselves that space to go deep like that. And when you do, that's when you're in the flow.
And then that is even the intuition level too, because just how you had your Saab and it was a tank, and then you're like, I think I need to go see the mechanic, and you drive in there and boom, you're right where you need to be. It's kind of like we might know on an unconscious level of where we need to be. Sometimes we deviate from that. And when we deviate that, there's a strain, like maybe on our energy level, on our mindset. And then that's when we start to feel those negative types of emotions and feelings, because we're not being true to what we're supposed to be doing. And there's different ways to see this as, like, for me, I like to say that we're not in line with our soul. We're not following what we're supposed to be doing. But for you, it's just like you're not following your intuition. You're just going against what your true self is saying. Like, hey, like, maybe we should pay attention to this. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. And we might learn not to follow our intuition after some time. And one of the things I was thinking about earlier, you hear this a lot, female intuition, where they say females have this higher level of intuition than males. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. But it's always interesting to me how they just use this, like they kind of know whether it's like, okay, I'm going to do this or I'm not going to do this. Do you believe that females have a higher intuition than males, or it just depends on the upbringing and the level of training and awareness?
Yeah, I'm going to squash this one because I've taught thousands of students all across the globe, men and women. And I would not say that women have higher intuition or more access to intuition than men. What I would say is there's an exception there, and that's a maternal intuition, that there's chemistry there. There's a link there that is different than typical intuition. I also believe that can be a paternal feel as well, but there really is maternal instincts. But female, male, I would say, same. Who can sit down, work through their problems, focus on where they are, check in with themselves easier, that person's going to be more intuitive.
Yeah. And society kind of shames men for getting mental health type of guidance, where it's kind of like, man up, be a man, suck it up, put some dirt on it. Whatever they were told as a young boy, men don't cry, whatever it was, now that's in their innate foundation of who they are as a male. And I will say, my wife just had her first child.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And she is totally different than how I am. Me, I'm more just, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to do me, and I'm still 100%. Now, I'm still support her, take care of the kid when she needs to sleep, things like that. We're a team. But for her, it's different. She carried that baby for 9 months. I didn't carry that baby for 9 months. And once that baby was born, you can just see the attachment and the love. So it's kind of like when we look at unconditional love, like who can unconditionally love? Probably animals and mothers. Other than that, I'm not sure, because if we look at the Black community, just kind of going down a tangent really quick, why are Black fathers able to leave the family so easily? If there was unconditional love for that child, it wouldn't happen, right? But it does. So that means that a mother is going to typically have more unconditional love for that child because they carried that child for 9 months. Now they're making sure that child's protected, taking care of them, raising them, all of those things. But for the man, it's kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to kind of move on. And I think this is kind of like the hard wiring, because a man can have 365 babies or more probably every year. And a woman can only bring one child unless they're having twins or several babies in one pregnancy in a 9 month span. It's just a different type of thinking, I think, a different type of wiring. So who's more intuitive? I think anyone can train themselves to be intuitive, train themselves to be mindful, to be aware of energy levels, to read people, but it does take time and it takes awareness. So if someone was interested in that, how could they start, or where could they find you?
I would say go to the main website. It's thesagemethod.com. There's videos, tutorials, free courses, things like this, just to get started. And that's really the hub of where you can find everything.
Perfect. And if you can, leave us with any last words, whether they be something we spoke about or something that we didn't speak about yet.
Absolutely. I would love to leave you with kind of bouncing off of what you just talked about when it comes to men and women. There's the biological connection to the kid, yes, but when it comes to men and women, who's more intuitive is the person that's more in sync with who they are authentically. And you spoke of coming together again with what you're talking about, how someone's raised to be tough. That's their personal programming. For women on the way other end of this, they were raised to take care of everybody else and neglect themselves. That's their personal programming. So whoever can sort of step away from that enough to do exactly what we both talked about today, which is check in with themselves, that's the person that's going to open that intuitive channel.
And what we talked about today is just a surface level of all of what intuitiveness is, mindfulness is, mindset is. And I want people to understand that this is just like an introduction conversation. And I encourage you to check out all of her links in the description box below, because that is going to give you that start, that foundation, and to really give yourself a chance to change if you want to change. Sometimes people feel like they are in a situation or they were put into an environment and that they can't change it. But that's so far from the truth, because yes, you could have been one of those men who maybe didn't have a father and you had to be tough and you couldn't cry. And then now you have a little bit more flexibility to choose what you want. Not saying that you have to be soft or you have to be open or caring. You don't have to be anything you don't want. You should look at who you want to be and then go for it and make adjustments so you can align your path with your true self, your intuitive self, your soul self, whatever you want to call it. There's so many definitions to it. But I want to thank you so much for coming on. What we talked about is so profound and it's so unique.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. All right, everyone. I would like to thank my guest, Isabeau Maxwell, again for coming on Coaching in Session. She is an intuitive development coach again, and what she talks about is the same thing I talk about, but in a different way. And for me as an educator, I would sometimes have to do things in a different way. I have to be able to explain something 19 different ways, because if I can't do that, how can I reach that individual? Because how I teach initially might reach 80% of the people the first time. And then I do it a different way, I modify it, and then I teach a little bit differently. I say it in a different manner. I do different examples. And then I might get 5% more, and I have to do it maybe 4 or 5 more times to get a whole 100%. Now, sometimes you might not get a whole 100%, but you get very close to it. And then, of course, any outliers, you can do that individually versus having the whole group stop and then saying, okay, we need to stop because this person can't get it. That person needs individualized attention. And the only way you can do that is by asking them a question. What do you understand? What don't you understand? Most of the times, if we ask ourselves a good question, a proper question, we can get the answers that we want. But sometimes the answer is a whisper. And it's telling us to do something in our life. It's telling us to do something or to act a certain way. Sometimes we do it, sometimes we don't. But getting into this state of mind where we allow that whisper to be a shout rather than just allowing it to remain muffled, there's a reason why many people are successful. There's no reason why you can't have a good life. There's no reason why you can't accomplish great things in your life. And if you're going through some hardship right now and you're looking for healing, for a change, Isabeau Maxwell is going to be a great asset in your corner to help you get to a new way of thinking. Now, if it's mindset, it's a little bit different, but it's still the same type of quality of coaching where we're helping you with how your mind is. Intuition is dealing with like your energy a lot. It's dealing quite a bit with energy and understanding and awareness, and that there's something out in the universe that's kind of pushing and pulling you in a direction, and you have to kind of gravitate toward your true self, that true way of thinking. It takes some time. But if you have a coach to help you, whether it be with your mindset, your finances, or your intuition, you're going to find yourself to be in better hands. So I always encourage people to go and seek out a coach, a mentor, a guide to help you get to where you need to be. And if you're dealing with anything that we spoke about in today's episode, or if you're looking to get a higher level of intuition, Isabeau is going to be a really good person again. If you're looking for mindset, you can head over to reverendconcepts.com. And our goal is to help you get into a better life and then a better state of mind. And we do that with quality coaching that's effective, because you should have a life that is not only effective, but substantial. My name is Michael Rearden. I'm a mindset coach. If you have any questions, you can email me coachingasession@gmail.com, and I will see everyone on the next episode of Coaching a Session. Until then, everyone, take care.